Hi everyone, Mark here. We will get to the episode in just a second, but first, it's just gone 9 p.m. here in Washington, and three bits of late breaking news from the White House, which we wanted to bring you because they are big. First, remember Donald Trump's travel bans from his first term, the so-called Muslim ban, as it was rather inaccurately labeled. Well, travel bans are back. About an hour ago, the president released a video from the desk in the Oval Office.
In my first term, my powerful travel restrictions were one of our most successful policies, and they were a key part of preventing major foreign terror attacks on American soil. We will not let what happened in Europe happen to America. We cannot safely and reliably vet and screen those who seek to enter the United States. That is why today I am signing a new executive order placing travel restrictions on countries including Yemen, Somalia, Haiti, Libya, and numerous others.
The other countries are Afghanistan, Burma, Chad, the Republic of the Congo, Equatorial Guinea, Eritrea, Sudan, and Iran. 12 in total. We are told that athletes for the World Cup and the Olympics, both due to take place in the United States, they are exempt. But that is a big bit of breaking news, which we'll have much more on in the episode tomorrow. There's more, though, because after that, more breaking news, and actually, I would argue, bigger still. Donald Trump has ordered an investigation into former President Joe Biden. It is a wide-ranging probe into Biden, his aides, his administration, whether or not there was a cover-up into a cover-up of his cognitive decline, where the aides carried out tasks that only a president is allowed to do. The Trump administration claims that President Biden's aides used an auto pen in order to sign bills. They are using all of this as grounds to claim that Biden wasn't running the country, that others were doing it on his behalf. And here is a key bit from the proclamation that was issued. They say that would constitute an unconstitutional wielding of the power of the presidency, a circumstance that would have implications for the legality and validity of numerous executive actions undertaken in Biden's name. I think it is fair to assume that they are using this probe in order to potentially invalidate executive orders, pardons, and actions that Biden took during his presidency. It is a big, big deal. And it's not all, because there was more in the last few minutes, just as we prepared to record all those updates, more to add, because another proclamation barring foreign students from entering the United States to attend Harvard. He cites national security concerns and accuses the university of failing to comply with federal aid agencies. The order is effective immediately and is the latest development in his war with Harvard. The suspension is set to last 6 months, we're told, with the potential of an extension. Of course, it could last a lot less than that if it is the start of some sort of negotiation with the university, a call to heal. Let's see, but it is certainly devastating for young foreign students preparing to start their dream education at Harvard in the autumn. Incidentally, a federal judge had blocked attempts by the Trump administration from doing this last week, but he is now using executive action to get round the court order. So, a flurry of news indeed, and we will get into all of it in a lot more detail in tomorrow's episode. But guess what? Plenty more happened today as well. And so let's now get into the episode that we recorded just a few hours ago. Ivor Bennett, it's very, very good to see you on the podcast. Thanks for stepping in.
Pleasure to be here.
What time is it with you? You are, of course, our Moscow correspondent. In Moscow, you look like you're in a cave at the moment. Where are you?
It certainly feels like that sometimes. I am in our studio where I normally do lives, television lives from. So that's why it's a little bit dark, but not dingy, very comfortable. And it's now coming up to 1:45 so pretty late. A long day here.
Well, it's really good to have you on the podcast. I'm really excited to talk to you about all that's going on, because there's been a lot on Russia and the United States today. I'm Mark Stone.
And I'm Ivor Bennett.
It's Thursday, the 5th of June, day 136 of Trump's presidency. And as economic experts run the numbers on President Trump's big, beautiful bill, what they've found is, well, not pretty.
And Trump's been on the phone again to Putin. Time for us to drill down on a bit of Kremlinology and Trumpology.
Yeah, so let's begin with that. President Trump got Russian President Vladimir Putin on the phone again today for an hour and 15 minutes. It was, we were told, this side at least, a good conversation. That's what Donald Trump said on his own site, Truth Social, but not a conversation that will lead to immediate peace. I don't think there's any surprise there, to be honest. It was a slight surprise that they spoke today, and it was a rare break in silence on foreign policy issues from the president. We know that they discussed Iran, but of course the focus was Ukraine. Of course, most pressing perhaps, those remarkable Ukrainian drone attacks on Russian air bases. That attack happened over the weekend, deep inside Russia, where dozens of military aircraft were reportedly destroyed. It is an operation, I think, that will go down in the history books for its audacity, its ingenuity, and maybe for what it now prompts, because Putin told Trump in the phone call that he will have to respond. What do you think, Ivor?
Yeah, it was a remarkable attack, both in scale and in nature, and I think everyone was really surprised by it. The operation was dubbed Spider's Web. It spanned 18 months, we're told, in the making. From Ukraine, according to Kiev, 117 drones were smuggled into Russia, and then they attacked multiple bases in multiple locations, one as far north as the Arctic Circle, one as far east as Siberia, 2,500 miles from Ukraine. So really quite extraordinary in terms of scale. Initially, Ukraine claimed to have hit more than 40 aircraft. Then they said 12 were destroyed. So slightly unclear on the numbers and what the scale of the damage is. But these aren't just any planes that they hit. These are Russia's long-range nuclear-capable strategic bombers. So they are one of the three pillars that make up its nuclear arsenal. That's why it's so significant. Russia's defense ministry did confirm the attacks were launched in 5 locations, but it says there was only damage in 2 of them, and in the other 3 locations they claim that the attacks were repelled. That's what they say anyway. So it's a bit unclear still as to what the level of the damage was.
What I'm interested in, there was a view a while ago when this war first started, there was a view that actually it was quite useful to keep the war going in a sense from a Western perspective, because slowly Russia's military capability was being degraded. Putin was throwing so much stuff into this war. He was losing an awful lot of men, and he was losing an awful lot of equipment. And I guess this plays into that, because in one extraordinary operation, as you point out, a key part of Russia's nuclear capability has been knocked out. But then I guess, either against that, we are seeing the speed with which Putin is rebuilding and rearming. What do you read into the fact that there's been sort of no coverage of it at all? That maybe it was as bad as people are suggesting in terms of losses?
Honestly, it's not clear. I think what's really interesting is how well, Ukraine initially said 40, then they said 12 were destroyed. It's unclear how many were hit, how many were destroyed. And then the latest figures we're getting from the US officials suggest it's a lot less than those initial figures. But I don't think that the damage almost isn't what's important here. It's more the fact that there was this breach of defenses. I think it's the humiliation that is how it's Russia's reaction to that I find most interesting. I think that's why they've stayed silent on it, to kind of conceal that breach of defenses, which was humiliating and embarrassing.
Trump said today that Putin had told him, quote, very strongly that he will have to respond to it. So although Putin is not talking about it publicly, it is clear that they discussed it privately in this phone call. Did Donald Trump try to persuade him not to respond? We didn't get any detail of that from the readout from the White House. Trump seemed to think that a cordial relationship with the Russian dictator would win him over in the end, but it doesn't seem to be working. I wonder how you think Vladimir Putin sees Donald Trump, Ivor.
Well, it's a fascinating relationship, isn't it? From the outset, certainly, it appears to be a turbulent relationship that flits between cordial and frustrated, then flirtatious, then tense, mostly because of Donald Trump's fluctuations. Vladimir Putin, on the other hand, has been very, very consistent with how he's dealt with Donald Trump ever since Trump won the election back in November, he's always been very complimentary of him, always sought to flatter him, be deferential, and generally try to massage the ego. And it's generally paid off. It's with Donald Trump always coming back on side after criticizing Vladimir Putin. But remember, it was just over a week ago that Donald Trump called Putin crazy after a series of Russian attacks on Ukraine. And that really, to me, crossed a kind of threshold, a new boundary in the rhetoric, at least. And I think Vladimir Putin, my interpretation anyway, is that he recognized maybe he had pushed Trump too far. And I think he does want to keep him on side because he wants to maintain that warming of ties with Washington because of everything that promises with all the potential business deals, lifting of sanctions, bringing Russia back in from the cold internationally. And so what he's done by not commenting on these attacks and then using this phone call as well with Trump is to try and turn the tables on Ukraine a little bit, because he's focused on the civilian deaths at the weekend from these bridges, one bridge in particular being blown up and then collapsing onto a passenger train, killing 7 people. And it feels like Putin is trying to turn the tables in Ukraine, cast Russia as the victim now that the attacks are coming the other way, and trying to get Donald Trump to believe that Russia now has a right to respond. And it was very interesting that Trump's readout of the call spoke about how Russia was essentially going to respond. He announced Russia's retaliation in a way.
Yeah, that's a very good point. Good way of putting it. And Trump as we have seen over the course of the past few months, has reserved much of his frustration for Zelensky and for European leaders. We all remember that moment in the Oval Office, and over the day ahead, the German Chancellor will be here in Washington. I wonder whether we will get more frustration from Trump to another key European leader. But the frustration has been directed towards them and not necessarily towards Putin. We had a statement through from Ukraine's President Zelensky after that call between Putin and Trump. Zelensky said Russia is giving the finger to the entire world, to all those who still hesitate to increase pressure on it. Yet it is Russia that should be seeking peace. It is in Moscow that they must begin to feel that war carries a cost, a high cost, and the highest one should be paid by the aggressor.
Yeah, no contrition from Zelensky there, unsurprisingly so. I'm curious to know that, Mark, how is Zelensky trying to rally Trump around his cause in DC? Because members of his top team have been in the States this week, haven't they?
They have, and Zelensky is... He has struggled over quite a few years now to work out the best way to play not just the American president, whether it be Biden or now Trump, but beyond them, Capitol Hill, the lawmakers on Capitol Hill, because it is they who must pass the spending bills for weapons for Ukraine. And now the focus is on further sanctions. All that talk of Russia is going to be the most sanctioned country in the world. We're going to cut off the SWIFT payment system. They're going to be isolated like North Korea. Never really worked out like that, did it? And the Ukrainians are certainly pushing that point. What difference do you think any new sanctions would make, Ivor?
Well, it depends how far and how fast they go. I think what's interesting here is that Russia is the most sanctioned country in the world. It has been cut off from all these international systems. And yet, as you say, the sanctions don't really appear to be working. You walk around Moscow here and the feeling is sanctions. What sanctions? There are Western products in the shops. There are Western luxury cars driving around the streets here. It feels like a very vibrant European city, actually. People are out and about enjoying life. That's the vibe you get here. And that's certainly the first impression you get as soon as you walk out into Moscow for the first time. And this is after 17 rounds of sanctions now, don't forget.
Exactly, yeah.
So what kind of difference is another one going to make? And it's almost part of the Russian psyche to kind of endure suffering and emerge the other side stronger.
And to bring it back to Trumpland, I do wonder if there's another round of sanctions on Russia. There will be many within the sort of MAGA right of Trump's party who will be saying, look, what is the point? It's interesting that a spat has emerged between key Republican Senator Lindsey Graham, and Trump ally, one-time chief strategist to Donald Trump in his first term, Steve Bannon, a prominent MAGA voice. A spat because Lindsey Graham was in Ukraine last week, visiting Vladimir Zelensky and other key members of his government. He was there just before this attack, this drone attack happened, and he praised the drone attack. He said it was audacious, it was brilliant, it was very, very clever. I'm paraphrasing. But he also said that the Senate will move ahead this week in bringing forward this bill for major additional sanctions. That prompted Steve Bannon on his podcast to say the White House has to condemn this immediately, as in the drone attack, and pull all support for Ukraine and tell Lindsey Graham to come home, or we're going to have to put you under arrest when you come home.
It's not just Lindsey Graham, though, threatening sanctions. Donald Trump has time and again kind of used that as the threatening stick over Russia. Do you think he is actually ever going to put his money where his mouth is, though, on sanctions, Mark?
With Trump, it is incredibly hard to tell. One day he'll say one thing, another day he'll say another. But he does have the power to push that bill through the Senate simply by, making threats to senators. I don't think he's made up his mind yet on whether to do that. He may conclude that sanctions kind of buy him time because he can put sanctions on. There won't necessarily be an immediate impact, and it shows that he is doing something. He is responding, but gives him a bit of time to kind of work out what the peace plan is down the line. Something we still want to mention, yesterday we talked about billionaire Elon Musk's frustrations with Donald Trump's big, beautiful bill, proposed legislation to cut taxes and slash some federal programs. And he didn't mince his words. Well, today he's gone further and started a kill the bill campaign on social media. Now, what is interesting, Ivor, is that there has just been a bit of briefing out of the White House today, which suggests that yesterday there was kind of holding statement from Caroline Leavitt when she was asked, was Trump irritated that Elon Musk was bashing his bill just days after the sort of swan song goodbye in the Oval Office. Well, now we hear that Trump was indeed caught off guard, but not entirely surprised at Elon Musk's hatred of this bill. The president had known that Musk's opposition to this bill had been building. The official said, but he did not expect Musk to be so forceful in his public opposition. But we wondered how long the Musk-Trump relationship would last. We thought there might be a fallout while they were still in the same room, while Musk was still working in the White House. Musk has obviously left the White House now, but I wonder whether that fallout is actually coming, and it could be pretty spectacular. But Musk, is not the only one who's been criticizing the big, beautiful bill. We've also had some new numbers from the nonpartisan Congressional Budget Office. They have analysed the bill, and they're saying it would add $2.4 trillion to the US national debt over the next decade. For context, the US national debt is currently a whopping $36 trillion. So that is adding a significant chunk of the money that the US owes. And that, of course, Ivor, is precisely why Elon Musk thinks the bill is a terrible idea, because he is all about reducing waste and reducing the national debt.
Yeah, Musk versus Trump, a box office clash for sure. But as a Brit, I'm keen to know, Mark, when will this all-important trade deal between the UK and the US be signed? Are we closer or any closer to knowing?
In London, Ed Conway, economics and data editor, he has drilled down too. Really, really interesting stuff. He's been examining why it's taking so long. It is, of course, all about the negotiations, which are ongoing. Little things like what types of cars will be included in the 100,000 tariff-free car quota. Will it be kind of first come, first serve? Will it be particular models of cars that are tariff-free? These are the details that we haven't worked out. And then this I thought was really interesting. Steel, massively complicated. The US has stipulated that any UK steel exported to America is melted and poured, manufactured in other words, in the UK. The problem with that is that our melting and pouring facilities in Port Talbot in South Wales, they've been shut down. The steel is brought into the UK and then exported from there. So will that be okay for the Americans? The other factory in Scunthorpe, they do melt the steel there. The problem with that factory is that it is called British Steel, but it is in fact owned by the Chinese. So question there over whether the Americans will see it as British steel or Chinese steel. So lots of negotiations still to do. That is why it's taking time. More on all that on our app, on the web, socials, TV, and there's a link in the show notes as well.
That's it for today's episode of Trump 100. And as always, you can get in touch with the team on trump100@sky.uk. That's trump100@sky.uk. Send the team your questions and they have another Q&A for you this weekend.
We do indeed. Ivor, thank you so much. It's really late with you, so we really appreciate you staying up.
No, pleasure.
And it was really good to chat. I really enjoyed it. Lots more to discuss in the future. Come back, will you? Come back on.
I can't wait. I'm sure there'll be another phone call we can discuss soon.
Oh yeah, there will. And what will Putin's response to that extraordinary drone attack be? Thanks, Ivor. Sleep well, and we will see you soon. Bye-bye for now.